Okay, this is a real estate video. If you want to learn how to buy and sell real estate and make cash same day like in a simultaneous close, go and watch this video. If you want to buy real estate and make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, you should watch this video. But don't forget, all my videos are based on the premise that everything I buy is well below the value of the asset, because I'm in the asset recovery business, which is a fancy name for liquidator, and I need to bring in money every day. So you can't bring money in every day with real estate unless you own the real estate and you're getting rental income, which I've done. But my main premise is, how do I find the asset? How do I buy the asset? In this case, it's a piece of real estate. How do I do all those things? So if you don't know how to do that, you're not going to end up with the real estate anyways. Then you're going to figure out how to finance it. So this is a real estate video. My name is Mike Addis. Go to the links below, and I'll link you up on all the different places where you can get real estate cheap and buy it for 50 grand or 100 grand. I don't usually buy that type of real estate. I want real estate that has real value. Okay, so if you go to one of the links below, you'll find another YouTube channel for me under Mike Addis, and in that YouTube channel you'll look for a video called Simultaneous Close. I'll put the link down there. You don't have to look at the channel, just go to the link. It's only a 6-7 minute video, and that'll give you an idea of how I did an actual simultaneous close. What's a simultaneous close? I'm buying a piece of real estate and I'm selling it the same day. So when I go to the title office to close this deal, titles where all the deals are closed, escrow they call them. So when I go to the escrow office, in the old days used to go, now they come to you. I went to the escrow office to close the deal. I was making cash within the hour because I had already had an investor to sell the property to simultaneously. So I'm buying it and I'm selling it simultaneously. That's called a simultaneous close. You don't hear that much about it because most of the real estate guys out there have never done it. I did my first simultaneous close back in the 90s. And I had to create the whole concept of how to do that simultaneous close. So let's go to find some real estate right now. I'm going to give you examples. I'll give you all the links. Look at the links. Read the book. Someone asked that, I want you to be my mentor. Well, if you want me to mentor you, yeah, no problem, but you got to read all the stuff first. So read 4 of the books. The book I'm giving away is free. Go to the link below and read the book, because in the book are my real estate transactions. And when you read, it's 240 pages. So, you know, this video may be 15 or 20 minutes. You got to read. You got to educate yourself. You're not going to get anywhere unless you educate yourself on how to do any of this stuff. I can only tell you so much on a video, and hopefully the video convinces you to be part of my crew, gang, tribe. I like that word, tribe. I used to live in Africa. There's a lot of tribes over there. I live in Ethiopia. There's like 50 or 60 tribes. They all have their own language, the customs, but they're all Ethiopians. But, you know, you have the Oromo and the Amhara tribe and the Tigray tribes. There's all kinds of tribes over there. There's some subset tribes of those tribes. And on and on and on. There's a tribe within a tribe within a tribe, and they all have their own languages. This is unbelievable. People are checking in with me. All right, very good. So let's get on to this real estate deal. Stop the rah-rah bullshit. Let's get to the point. There are 42,000 zip codes in the United States. 44,000 zip codes. Each one of those zip codes is a real estate market. Within my zip code, 92011, which is near the ocean, North San Diego County, there are maybe 3 different clumpings of real estate valuations within my one zip code. Because when you're at the ocean, that's one price valuation. I'm 1 mile from the ocean, as the crow flies directly. If you take the side streets, go north or south, and then you got to go west to the ocean, because the ocean's west. I'm on the Pacific Coast, West California. Then the property goes up when you're on the ocean by like $500,000 to $1 million. When you're sitting right on the ocean, Carlsbad, where I live, there's not that many houses on the ocean. They didn't have that. The old days there were, but not anymore. Practically none. Compared to the next town up, which is Oceanside, where everything's on the freaking ocean. See what I'm saying? So the valuation in that market is different from my market. When I go 1 mile east of me, the valuation drops. So the further away you get from the ocean in the same zip code, the less the property's worth. So number one, you got to find a market that you want to look at. You get that? And it's usually related to a zip code. So one, you got to find the market. Could be in Ohio, could be in Minnesota, wherever the hell you want to go. Once you go into that market, the second thing that you have to do, now stay focused and stay with me on this one. When you go into that market, you have to look at discrepancies in prices. You can use Zillow or one of these sites. You don't need a real estate agent to do any of this stuff. You need an appraiser. We'll get to that in a second. When you go in and find the pricing, you want to find a pricing that's 15 to 20% below everyone else's prices, comparably speaking. So I want to compare a 3,000 square foot house with a 3,000 square foot house. I want to compare a 2,000 square foot house with a 2,000 square foot house. They have to be in the closely resembling the market, because when you actually do the appraisal is going to say, wow, this house is 15 to 20% below all the other houses. Hard to find on the West Coast because the prices are so inflated now, but I'm talking about normal markets. West Coast, Southern California is not a normal market. But they're out there, you know. You just have to hunt around. It takes some work. Sorry. You can't just fall down and make $1 million in real estate game. I've made millions of dollars and sold tens of millions of probably $50, $100 million bought and sold real estate over the last 35, 40 years. And let me tell you, it's not that difficult. It just takes some work. Just like building the asset recovery business, and on the other videos, you got to do some work. So number two, you got to find that property. Number one, you got to decide on a zone. I call them zones, or a market. Number two, you have to find a property that's already 15 to 20% below. And then number three, you have to go and negotiate to get it to 25 to 30% below appraised value. Appraised value means an appraiser. So number four is an appraiser is going to tell you if you're right or wrong. You don't have to get a hard appraisal. Just call up an appraiser, give them $100, and he'll tell you if you're crazy or not. Well, I don't want to spend the $100. Then it doesn't matter. Real estate agents don't know what things are worth. They're guessing. So number four, you have to have the appraiser. Let's talk about appraisals for a second, because I just had an appraisal done. I just talked to an appraiser like 2 months ago because I had to refinance the house below 3%. Can you believe it? I finally did it. On a big house, jumbo loans. You have jumbo and conventional. We'll get to loans in a second. Let's stay with the appraiser for a second. I'll tell you a quick story. So I'm buying a piece of real estate from one of the largest builders in the world. It's called Meritage. And I'm in Austin, Texas. And the house is on a golf course at the TPC and Lake section of Austin that I'm in. Lake Travis. I'm in Lake Travis. And it's the Tournament Players Cup. It's TPC. This is where the professionals play. TPC means that Tiger Woods can play there, because the pros, the real pros, only play at TPC golf courses. They have to be approved by the Tournament Player Cup, or they don't play. Something to do with the grass. I don't know what the hell that means. Anyways, this house is on the 9th green, and Meritage is a don't wanter. Remember all the videos we were talking about? We want somebody that doesn't want something. Why don't they want it? Because they've already built out the community. They don't have to build any more houses. I think they had one lot left, and they had built 300 houses in this community. Mostly golf course. Not mostly, but a lot of them were fronted on the golf course, 18 holes. I think there was 2 18-hole courses in this TPC. In Lake, whatever I told, Lake Travis. Community. Off the 620 and 711 or something like that. One of those freeways. It's kind of close to there in Lake Travis. Anyway, so I make friends with the salesperson for Meritage, and Meritage wants to get rid of this property. Why do they want to get rid of it? Because it's the last house. It was the original model home. The door was $3,000. Why? Because when builders build models, they put all the dough into it because they want to make you love their properties. Of course, you don't end up with a house like that because it costs too much dough. They don't build houses like that unless you want to pay. So they wanted to dump the model. What do they want for the model? They wanted $550,000. So I went to the appraiser and he says it's worth $750,000. Simple. That was it. Well, why the hell would a builder like Meritage, one of the largest builders in the world, want to sell a house $300,000 below the real appraised value? Because builders don't sell houses based on appraised values, or even market values for that matter. For the most part, builders are selling houses based on an accounting principle if they want to make X amount of profit over their cost. So if they're building it for $100 a square foot, they want to sell it for $150. But this house might have been worth $250,000, $300,000, $300 a square foot. So a 4,000 square foot house was really worth about $200 a square, which is $800,000, because the appraiser came in at $750. I eventually sold the house for $850, but that's down the road. Let's go and do the deal and explain why you can find don't wanters and how you find them. No one's going to tell you this. This isn't anywhere. You won't find this almost anywhere. They may touch on it a little bit, but I'm going to give you the rest of the story. So they want $550 for the house. So I tell Tom, I says, hey, you know, I don't want to pay $550. I'll tell you what I'll do. No, I said to him, what is it? What are they in it? What's their cost of goods? He says they got to get $450 out of this thing. They want to sell it for $550. Want to make $100,000. Plus it's March, so it's the end of the quarter. So they got their bonus checks coming in. That's a great time to buy. Is when people want to get paid. The manager, the director of the location of Austin, and all that stuff. Long story short, I say tell them $450 or nothing. It's like the 28th of March. Clock is ticking. back in 2007 or 8 or whenever I bought it. It's just before everything collapsed. 2006, 2007. I dumped it in 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. I don't remember the exact date. Okay, I'll do it. I said, really? Yeah, he says, we're going to do the deal. We got to write it up today. We have to close it today. So I had a mortgage broker. Her name is Carol. So you got to go out and get a mortgage broker, a good one. Not go directly to the bank. You want a mortgage broker because the mortgage brokers have many, many different sources of getting loans done, and Carol was the best. I won't get into Carol. Long story short, Carol could get any piece of real estate finance because she was very tough, and she would go directly to the underwriters, and she would get the underwriters, which are the people that approve your loans, get it done. She'd send them flowers and candy and cars or whatever the hell she had to do. She was always figuring out an angle. Carol was the best. And then I had a great title guy, escrow guy. We'll get to him a little later. But let's go and complete the transaction and tell you how we cashed this deal out. We, meaning me. So now I got the house for $450. It's worth $750. I put 10% down. I'm in at $400. I go ahead and refinance it like the next day to get not only my $50,000 out, $450, I put 50 down, so I got a loan now of $400,000, and I refinance it like $650. Really? Yeah, so that's $250,000 I pull out of the house, minus costs and things like that, etc. So 4, 5, 6 and a half, 50, it's $250. Cash. So the $50,000 I put down wasn't even my $50,000. I borrowed the 50G, so I put nothing into the property to get the property. I had to pay 10% on the $4,000 for like about 30 days. I asked for the money for 2 weeks. The loan shark that gave it to me, they're called hard money lenders, but the real word they're loan sharks. They're making a lot of money, 10% per month or more. And I paid him extra too. It was like 15. Whatever I paid him, it was worth it because I got the house. $450 at $45,000 plus closing costs. I had to pay him off and everything, so I gave him his 55, 60 grand back, and I ended up with the 250 minus the 50, 60 I borrowed. You get it? So I ended up with like 185, 190. 8590 sticks in my mind because I don't have the records in front of me right now. I'm just telling you the deal. So I'm sitting on 185, 190 in cash. And I own the house with a $650,000 mortgage on it that's worth $750. So I don't only end up with cash. I bought the house with nothing down. I own the property. Now I got to get rid of it. This is not a simultaneous close. It took me a few months to sell the thing. Fast forward 7 or 8 or 9 months after making $3,500, $4,000 a month payments. So I had to put out another 50 grand. So 185 minus 50, I'm down to 135. I sell the house for $850. What? Now, here's the moral of this particular story. Most of the big money is in bigger houses. It's hard to do this with $200,000 houses. It's hard to get a $50,000 that's really worth a $100,000 house that you buy for $50. I mean, I'm sure they're out there, but I never hunted around for them. I'm going to tell you another deal I did with a company called Armadillo. I think they were out of San Antonio. They came into Austin, got their ass kicked. I bought 15 houses from them immediately. And then I leased out like 7 of them. Before I even bought them, they were already leased. Those were $120,000, $130,000, $140,000 houses. I bought 15 of them at one time. Another story, another video. You get the point on this one? Find the zone. There's 80,000 zones because there's 42,000 zip codes. So there's at least 80,000 to 100,000 real estate markets. I call them zones. Number one. Number two, you got to find something that's already 15 to 20% below because you can't, you're not going to just fall down and find one for 30%. Although I did on this particular one because I knew the guy from Meritage. Okay, number two, you have to go get that property, and then you have to negotiate it down to 25 to 30% below the real value of the property. This one I got below even that. You got to get a verification by finding an appraiser that'll give you what's called a soft appraisal, which means he or she's not going to go there. They're just going to look at their computer and say, yeah, based on this and what you've told me, because appraisers will give you upgrades for what's inside the property compared to everything else. So I happen to have all wood floors in this particular house. I'm in my office right now, that I'm sitting near the ocean. And this flooring that I have, which is 100% oak, real oak wood floor, is an upgrade from all the other houses. So I get a benefit of an upgrade when they do the appraisal. On this particular house I'm telling you about over in Austin, Texas, it had a fossilized floor. The average house didn't have fossilized floors because models are way more. Okay, so then I get the okay on the third. Then I got to get the financing. I need a broker. Really good broker. So you got to line all these people up. Then you got to get the down money, assuming that you don't have the down money. With this cash, I was able to do more and more and more and more real estate deals, because once you have cash, you don't need all these other players in the game. That make sense? Bing, bang, boom. Go from Austin, Texas, and go to Las Vegas, Nevada. So I'm living in Las Vegas, Nevada. Prior to this, I do the same thing with a property, with a don't wanter. The lady's going through a divorce. Her mother's the real estate broker. Same concept, same deal. I ended up doing 8 of those types of deals I'm going to tell you about really briefly in this particular transaction. The house is appraised at $400,000. They already have it marked at 25% below $400,000. You do the calculation. I'll do it for you quick. So it's appraised out at $400,000. I already talked to a appraiser that I had in this particular market. So you take 400 times 0.25. It's 100 grand. It's 300 grand. I ended up getting it for 275. That's how much I ended up buying it for. On this particular transaction, you have to go to my video at the link below. I'll explain to you how I closed out the deal in a simultaneous close. But the concept is still the same. I had to find a market or a zone. There were 80 houses in this market. I had to find the house according to all the, they didn't have Zillow back then, so I had to talk to an appraiser and say, hey, I'm interested in this market. What do you see in here? This house is like 25, 30% below what everybody else is selling for. I find out that the lady is a don't want her. Her mother's the real estate agent. She wants to dump the property. She wants to get rid of it today. She's going through a divorce. She hates her son-in-law, soon-to-be ex-son-in-law. They have 2 beautiful children. They want out of the house. They want out today. Same thing with the Meritage transaction. They wanted to close it out. They wanted to get rid of it. Same concept with everything else I do. It's always the same story. Someone's got to get rid of it. Whether I'm buying and selling computers or real estate, it doesn't matter the size of the transaction. It could be a jet airplane. I bought and sold a used submarine. No kidding. One of those 2 or 3 man submarines. I bought and sold used fire extinguishers. Well, they weren't used. They were but they were old. You get that? And then when you find the asset, you have to find the valuation. Well, if you're buying and selling computers, it's easy. You go to eBay and you can check what things were sold for. But in real estate, it's a little different. It's hard to go to a site, but you can go to Zillow now. But in those days, it didn't have Zillow. Zillow will give you an idea. So when you're hunting around, you got to get the idea. Then you have to put the players together. So going back to the Las Vegas transaction, I have to do this deal. I ended up getting for $275. I ended up selling it for $400,000. It really appraised at $425, and the final appraisal gave it at $425. Guy that bought the house was totally happy. I even helped him to finance the house. I gave him the down money, then I gave it back to him. He ended up getting the house for nothing. And I gave him another 15, 20 grand just for doing it. So I sold it to the guy when I bought it simultaneously. I bought it and sold it like that, within hours. That's called a simultaneous close. That means I had to line up the buyer ahead of time. Now, there's a whole story and videos about how you line these people up to sell it to them. You just got to get somebody with A credit. They may not have the cash. I helped them with the down money. I bought it for $375. So I bought it and I resold it to him for 400 grand. Bottom line. So it's $125,000. I gave him the down money for the 40 grand. I had the cash at that particular time, but if I didn't, I would have got a loan shark to give it to him. So he could do it. Then I gave him his 40 G's back plus a few thousand extra. So I ended up making 40, 50 grand, whatever the hell I made. The numbers, calculate the numbers out. So 10%, 400,000, he put 10% down. That's 40 grand. So he was 360 and I was in at 275. Plus I gave him some extra cash. And I did it all at the same time. So bottom line for this whole discussion. It takes work to make money. It takes some brain power. It takes a little bit of risk. But where was the risk? I was buying the house at so much below what the real valuation was, which is based on the appraisal. Why do I use appraisers? Because banks only care about what appraisers say. They don't give a shit about what real estate agents say. They don't care about what Zillow says. So the true valuation is what an appraiser says. You got to find the appraiser. Gabish? That makes sense. Those are real estate transactions. Or you can do what I've done on other real estate transactions. In Las Vegas, it's beautiful because people are coming and going all the time, right? One lady defrauded somebody $4 or $5 million. She was a stockbroker manipulating defrauder. And I bought that house. The FBI were there looking around trying to find her. Then I went in and found the house. bought it for like 30-40% below, because at that particular time in the Las Vegas market, because Las Vegas is such a screwy market because people are coming and going all the time, they got to get rid of things. People walk in with a $10,000 Rolex watch and go down, not at the Strip downtown, and go to these jewelry stores, and they'll dump a $10,000 Rollie for like $5-6 grand because they're addicted to gambling. They need the cash. They don't want it. They'd rather go gamble than keep the stupid Rolex. Does that make sense? So that's what you're looking for. That's the bottom line. You got to find people that don't want things for whatever the hell their reasons. What are the reasons why they don't want the real estate? In this particular case I gave you, Meritage wanted to get out of the community. They were done. They wanted to sell the last model. They didn't care about market value. They just wanted to get it off their book. In the Las Vegas deal I gave the lady, wanted to get out of the relationship with the husband. There's a lot of divorces. I had another real estate deal in the same Las Vegas community, the same market. There's 80 houses there. I ended up doing 8 or 9 houses. I owned 10%. Because once I drove down the purchase price to $275, it drove down all the other prices. I made sure that it was listed. I controlled that particular market. But then I drove everything back up when I sold it. So I drove it down when I bought it. Then when I sold it, I didn't have it listed. So no one knew. Yeah, but you were screwing up. No, the other guy I bought the house from, he was dying of cancer. He wanted to go back to Chicago. He wanted to die with his grandchildren. He was an older gentleman. I paid the same price that I paid this lady, $275. It was still worth $4.25. And on and on and on and on and on. Well, if it's that easy, why doesn't everybody do it? Because no one wants to do the work. I told you in the other videos, 9 out of 10 people of the population in the United States, I think we have 340 million people. It's only 30 million entrepreneurs or business owners. And most of those guys are one-shop operation, men or women. It's less than 10% of the population in the United States really wants to own their own business because it's easier for them to get up, go get a paycheck, come home, buy the pizza, play with the kids, and on and on and on. That's the game for most people. So if you want to make money in the real business, so why am I talking about real estate? Because real estate's the same as any other freaking asset out there. It's just a bigger asset. You could do it with buildings. President Trump bought, I think, the General Motors building for like, I don't know what he paid for it, $1 million. And it was worth like 50, 60 million. Go check that one out in The Art of the Deal. Read President Donald Trump's books. All those deals, The Art of the Deal, and then he did The Art of the Comeback. That's a great book about how he had a negative net worth of $2 billion. He was going broke. He was going to close it all up. He was finished. But the banks won't walk away if you're a big guy. Little guys, they'll liquidate you out in like 2 minutes. Kick your ass out in the street, but not if you really have a lot of money. They don't kick big guys' asses out in the street. Don't forget to comment. Do the links below. This is a real estate transaction. I can do 10 videos on real estate transactions. And I'm looking to put together people that are like-minded. So that's why I want you to go get the book. It's free. Comment. And kind of join our group of people. Because if we have 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 like-minded people all working together, you can imagine we do almost anything. Not crowdfunding bullshit. If you have a deal that's a really good deal, just come to me. I'll give you my email below. I'll do a real estate deal with you anytime. It's not a problem. Or any other liquidation that you have. Asset recovery. So Mike Addis, thanks for joining me on this video. I want you to link. I'm not a YouTube guru guy that's looking for 1 million subscribers. I'm looking for comments. People that want to do deals with me. My email's below too. Hook up with me and we'll do some deals. See you on the next video.